Hello, my name is Austin Thicklin, and today I will be talking about nation building in Latin America, specifically Mexico, but later we will be talking about other parts in Latin America. The objective of this whole video is to what challenges did Latin American nations face in the process of nation building, and in what ways did the caudillos impact the process of nation building. So the definition of caudillos is that caudillo is a military type leader, somewhat a dictator who comes into an area of anarchy or without a style of government, and he tries to rule the government in a way so that way they can pass on the government and make it a strong government. Today I'll be talking about Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna in Mexico. He was a caudillo. He was a national hero, um, and he in these years he was the one who formed Mexico and made it somewhat a great country. So that way they could get a constitution, and so that way they can become a style of government. I will be addressing the idea of Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. Um, how did he come into power? Who supported him and why? Um, was he a liberal or conservative? Was he a federalist or a centrist? Explain. I will explain the difference on how he dealt with the impacts of these conflicts. What was the biggest obstacle that he faced, and how did he attempt to overcome these obstacles? What was the long and lasting impact that he had on the nation building in Latin America, specifically Mexico? Um, he was called Dio, who traveled to Mexico. And brief history about Mexico is that Mexico was under control as a colony from Spain. They moved over to Mexico to establish colony for Spain, so that way so Spain could pass on and spread their country to gather more land. At that time, Mexico was fighting Napoleon of France, who was trying to take over Europe. So they weren't really paying attention about the colonies in Latin America. So they had to deal with Napoleon. So the, the Mexicans inside Latin America, they saw that they were too busy fighting a fight, so they had a chance to um, free from Spain and become their own country. Once they became free in their own country, they realized that there was a lot of small problems they had to deal with and that they didn't expect because northward in North America, where the United States, where they saw that the United States had free from Britain, and they were starting to make their own country. In both Latin America and in the United States, specifically Mexico, they had their own civil war, and they had to have free once they got free from the country that was ruling them earlier. That they had a lot of problems that they had to face, like the new style of government and how they would survive through trade and things like that. Um, during Mexico, they did have a lot in trading with North American Indians and other surrounding peoples in that area, but um, that area through civil wars and small fights and debates, these trades and other currencies and selling was cut off. So at one point, Mexico didn't have any money. Through poverty and civil war, the country was battered, and they really needed the government, a person who could bring all the people together, so that way they stay together and become one main country. Um, there were fights between two different people. Fight for power was liberals versus the Catholic Church, specifically conservatives. The Catholic Church or the conservatives were people who wanted the monarchy style government to stay the same, to keep the social order class. The social order class was if you were born in Mexico, you were at a lower rank than someone who were born in Spain who moved over to New Mexico. Um, is the social class was really depending on where you were born and how did you get to Mexico. If you were born in Spain and moved over to Mexico, you got better land, better jobs. You would just consider it the top notch and the higher part of the people. If you were born in Mexico, you were a little bit lower. But if your parents were Indian and Mexican, then you were considered even less in the social class than someone who was born in Spain and moved over to America. So, speaking of this, when or making the new country, the conservatives wanted to keep the people who were born in Europe and came over, or born in Spain and came over to America. They wanted them to stay in power and keep the monarchy.
Hi, my name is James Britton, and today I will be talking about Juan Rosas and how he affected nation building in Latin America. The following questions that I will be answering today are: how and when did these men come into power? Who supported them and why? Were these men liberals or conservatives? Were they federalists or centrists? Also, I'll be answering the questions: what were the biggest obstacles each man faced, and how did they attempt to overcome these obstacles? And last but not least, what was the lasting impact each man had on nation building in Latin America? The early years of independence brought chaotic struggles between liberals and conservatives. Rivadavia believed in a unitary liberal state which should rapidly modernize by encouraging foreign investment, European immigration, and free trade. But liberals from the city of Buenos Aires possessed little economic power.